welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Corey Palmville Foster, and today I'm excited because we are going to talk about one of my favorite subjects, and that is branding. And to have this conversation around how we can brand to find our ideal client and attract them and engage with them, we have a special guest, a brand expert, someone who is not new to this, but definitely is true to this, Lauren Felter. So let's welcome Lauren to the podcast. Hi, Lauren.
Hey Corey, thanks for having me. I loved the intro video. I'm like hyped. I'm ready to go.
Awesome. Look, we just got that together, so I'm glad that you liked it. I was like, I want something to give us a little vibe before we get started, wake us up a little bit. But I'm
Yeah.
so excited that you are on the podcast today because branding is one of the most important aspects I feel that a business needs to have kind of in place before they start marketing. So before we dive into the topic, I know everybody's excited, but before we dive into the topic, I want to give you a chance to introduce yourself to the IROC fam. So tell us a little bit about who Lauren is.
Yeah, so my name is Lauren Felter. I own Felter Unfiltered and I am the design educator for non-designers. So my career started in university marketing. I was working for a flagship university overseeing marketing operations, technical systems for the admissions office, and really thought that my career was going to continue in higher education. I thought I was going to go on and become a director of admissions or a university vice president. But in my late 20s, kind of was having some feelings about like this traditional path of success and just felt that I had made a lot of decisions based off of what I should do. And I thought, like, okay, if I do this, this, and this, then the end result will be happiness. And I wasn't really happy with myself, with where I was in life. And so I knew I needed to make some really big changes. And so I quit my job. I started working for myself. And that eventually led me to what I'm doing now. So, when I was working at the university, I was also teaching design to non designers, a course for communication students that they all had to take. And so, about a year and a half ago, I was working with a career coach and I was like, hey, like, I'm trying to figure out like what am I supposed to be doing with my life? Like I know I want to help people. I want to do something creative. I want to do something that I'm good at. And she was like, "Hey, this thing that you're doing, this course that you teach to college students, like this could benefit a lot of different people. It could benefit 9 to 5ers, freelancers, business owners, because I'm sure that many people can relate. Design is a large part of your to-do list, whether you like it or not. If you have a podcast, you have an Instagram account, you run a business, like there are things that you have to create and you have to put out into the world. And so that's where I come in. I help non-designers design better so that they can meet their bottom line.
Awesome. I think people are really excited who are listening because I know so many people who spend hours upon hours. They're kind of, I call them Canva warriors who stay on Canva trying to create things and they're not into design and they're just trying to figure it out. And so I love that we're going to talk from a place of the fact that you've educated for years people who are not designers by trade or who don't even really want to necessarily be designers
Yes.
but need it, right? You're somebody
Yeah.
who can educate us on how we can get this thing done.
Yes, absolutely. And that is something that I hear all the time is like, I know it doesn't look good. I don't know what to do to make it look better. Like I'm sitting here spinning my wheels, and that is like exactly what I do is I help people follow a set of rules so they can make their stuff look better and work better.
I love that. That we're gonna have a good time today. That's all I know. We're gonna have a good
Yeah.
time today. So I also want to point out, even though it's not necessarily pertaining to just people who are going into design or who have design challenges. I love that you told us your story because I think there are people listening who are in their 9 to 5 right now, and while they love some of the aspects of what they do, they realize, like you said, like where's the fulfillment? Like, where's the next stage? Where should I be? What do I want to be when I grow up?
Mhm.
Like, they're thinking that. And I love that you took the knowledge and the experience that you had in your day to day 9 to 5, the thing you had been trained to do, went to school for, and then shifted it into something you were more passionate about that could give you more fulfillment in life overall and let you kind of do what you want to do as you want to do it. So I love that you kind of said that because I'm sure some people who are listening are in that space now. And to hear that you left the more cushiony guaranteed paycheck to live out your dreams is amazing.
And that's state healthcare. Yeah.
Yes. Hey man, healthcare is no joke. When you get older, you realize like who's gonna pay my healthcare? Who's gonna
Mhm.
That's a big thing. So let's talk a little bit about design. What are some of the basics? Because most of our audience are small business owners. What
Mhm.
are some of the basic design items that they need to have in their brand kit?
Yeah. So, a big thing right off the top is that all fonts and colors communicate something before someone even reads a single word. So, when someone goes to your Instagram, your website, they see a flyer that you hand them, they come across, any of your visual assets, they are assuming things about you, your brand, what you stand for before they ever read this is my name, this is who I help, this is what I do, this is what I can do for you. So, we want to make sure that we are choosing fonts, colors, and shapes with intentionality. So, the first thing that I do that I teach in my course and what I do with my done for you clients is I say, okay, I want you to give me 5 words that you would want your ideal person to use to describe you, who you are, what you stand for. And then from there, we decide, okay, we're going to pick about 6 to 8 colors, we're going to pick 2 to 3 fonts, and we're going to pick our shapes that we're going to use. And then all future design decisions can be made from that basis, that brand suite that I call it.
I love it. The brand suite. It sounds all fancy. The brand suite. And I love how you kind of brought out fonts because I think when a lot of people are in the beginning stages of thinking about their branding, they're only thinking like logo, need a website, need social media things to like have the same colors. But they're not thinking about the fonts and how fonts definitely convey different things to your audience, whether it's more whimsical, like that cursive print. I'm always like, oh, does a woman own this business? Or if it's that block, I always call it that block chunky lettering. I'm like, oh, this is very alpha male, and it just you have that feel, even if you don't know exactly what the feel is, you still feel something. It still connects with you, and so I love that you brought that in. Are there any like hard set rules or even loose rules about putting together your brand suite or executing your brand suite in the ways that it needs to work in your business?
Yeah. So I'm glad that you brought up, fonts and what they communicate. I recently posted a reel and it was why you can't just change the colors of a Canva template and think that it's on brand. And I went and I picked 3 different Canva templates for a social graphic. The words said the exact same thing. The colors were my brand colors, but they all looked completely different from each other. And I got a ton of views on it. And people were like, oh my gosh, this is so helpful. Like I didn't even realize it until I saw it because, there's a big difference between a squiggly line and a straight line, cropping a picture to a circle versus a square, having left alignment versus center alignment. All of those are communicating things. So, as far as hard and fast rules, I would say just be consistent. Pick your brand suite, make those design decisions with intentionality, create all future pieces from there and be consistent across platforms. So I think what I see, really tripping people up is their Instagram looks like one thing, their website looks like another thing, their sales materials for whatever they're selling looks like something else. And there's really not that consistency across the board. And when you've got kind of what I call second rate design, that starts to put questions into people's minds. So, when you're just starting out, like no one wants everything to be absolutely perfect and seamless. But when you start getting to that place in your business where you're charging premium rates for things, we don't want people to then question. Like we don't want them to see a dollar amount and then question is this person worth it? We want them to see a dollar amount and have everything in front of them be so incredibly seamless that they never question like is this person legit? Like, this thing looks a little off. So, yeah.
And I like that you said consistency because I think that's been an ongoing theme from every expert, and they're in different arenas. It's like you have to be consistent because
Mhm.
somebody is listening to this. They've made one Canva image, they've thrown it on Instagram. It's like, okay, why is nobody messaging me to, book with me now? And it's like, yeah, you have to be consistent in everything, including the look, the feel, the vibe of your business. And I want to know too, because I think some people are like, okay, I get you, I get I need to do this, but where do I start? Because if I have an idea for my business, maybe I know my business name, how do I then go into deciding things like colors? I have a lot of people who come to me and they're in like sororities and fraternities. They'll be like, I want green and pink. No shade to the AKAs out there, but I'm like, oh my gosh, green and pink for everything. Is there a reason? No, I just got a call today. So I said, I just want pink. I don't know why. That's what I want. I was like, okay. So what are your thoughts? Like, how do we get started in kind of thinking through colors and fonts and all the other elements that we need to kind of have that clear branding that's going out to our audience?
So I love that you brought up the sorority example because you should never, ever, ever pick your fonts and colors because they're popular, because they're your favorite, because they're representative of an organization that you like, because everyone in your niche uses those colors. Like, it really goes back to those 5 words that we want our ideal person to use to describe us, and we're going to pick fonts and colors that align with those words. Just let's say pink, for example. Someone might come to me and they may say, hey, I really want to use pink in my branding colors. And so I would ask them, okay, what are those 5 words that you want to communicate? And let's say that those 5 words are, I want to be bold and sassy and fierce. Okay, maybe we might use like a magenta or a hot pink. Let's say that they want to be seen as, soft and caring and approachable. Maybe it's a little bit more of like a softer, like a blush pink or a peach pink or something like that. So it has to do with, the shade of the color, what we're combining it with. Like, is it all pinks, or is there just like a pink accent color along with some other colors? It really all works together to put out, the vibe of who you are and what your brand is.
Yes, and I love that you talked about the shades of a color because people will do things like that. They'll say pink, and I'm like, okay. I usually will ask, do you have a hex code? Do you at least have that? Because we make a lot of branding things like Dump You, kind of like you do, and I'm like, I need more than just pink because there's dark pink, there's light pink, there's like a pastel pink, all these things, and people think because they say it that somehow we in the rest of the world know exactly what that means. It's like, no, I'm thinking of all kind of pinks now. And so I love that you kind of mentioned like there are shades. And I always too, when I talk to clients, I'm like, have you thought about how these colors look together? Like just because you decided that you like these 3 colors, it's like, do they go on top of each other?
Mhm.
do they make
Yeah.
sense?
That's huge. So I actually was recently working with a copywriter, and she had, all of her colors were these very like soft pastel colors. And so she didn't have a single color that she could put as text on a white background that was like contrasting enough that you could actually read it. So she just had like black text and then all of these pastel colors, and she was like, I don't like it. And I was like, okay, well, let's like take some of these colors and make darker versions of them, and let's introduce like a navy blue. And then, we developed it, and she is like obsessed with it now. She's like, oh my gosh, yes, like this works. Like it's my brand 2.0. But yeah, I see people making that mistake in both directions. Like, they either have lots of light colors or lots of dark colors, but like you need several of your colors to be able to go on top of several versions of other colors so that you can have those combos, so that we can have that versatile Instagram grid, and we can have a cohesive web page with lots of, variation to it.
Yes, because when you were saying that, you said readable. I was like, yes, I love the people who have the fonts that you can't read or that your eyes hurt when you're reading it. You're like, oh
Mhm.
gosh, too much of this is not a good thing. And I think again, we as creatives, we fall in love with certain things. We fall in love with a
Mhm.
color, with a font, and then we don't think about how realistically these things can be used because people are not going to read one line of your content. They're seeing you on social media, they're reading your stuff in newsletters, they're seeing it in emails, they're seeing it all over the place. And if it's all cursive all day long, it's like, Like, what is
Yeah.
this? What is this?
Mhm.
We need more than that. And then there's also the idea of like, what are your headers versus your main text, because that's different too. There's just so many elements that I think new entrepreneurs just don't think about when it comes to branding. And they're missing out on a way, like you said, to be consistent, because they're like, well, I think this looks good today, but then tomorrow we're going to use this font and we're going to use these colors. And then we go back and look, like you said, on Instagram, and we're like, oh, this looks like a whole bunch of just stuff thrown at it. It just makes no sense. There's no cohesiveness. And I always tell people, if somebody saw you one day and liked you but forgot your name, and then they go through their feed, maybe they liked your page, they go through their feed, will they recognize another post from you just by looking at it? If they won't, then
Mhm.
your branding is not tight enough, because I want people, every time they see the butterflies and the gold and the blue, that they're like, oh, that's Corey, that's IROC, and they see it all the
Mhm.
time. But I'm like, if they can't recognize you as quick as they can recognize a Nike swoosh or the Target bull sign, then you're missing something.
Yeah, it's like, have you ever noticed, like one of your favorite celebrities or someone that you follow when they change their profile picture on Instagram and all of a sudden you don't like recognize them pop up at the top in your stories anymore? It's just like that. You want that instant recognition. And again, it's not your handle or your name or your logo, it's colors, it's fonts, it's all of those visual cues that they're seeing.
Yeah, so let's talk about some mistakes, because we talked about some things to do, right? Be consistent, have, specific colors, have specific fonts, have that vibe, be seamless. But what, because you work with a lot of people, what are some mistakes that you commonly see? No shade to anybody who's doing them, but let's just get it out there. What are some common mistakes to branding that you see on a day to day basis?
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about, choosing colors or fonts just because they're your favorite, you like them, they're popular, all of that. Something that I see all the time is just like way too much text. Like let's say that you were walking down the street and someone handed you a piece of paper and it was just filled with text. Like you're probably not going to read it, you're going to throw it away. An Instagram graphic, a web page, all of it, it's exactly the same. So, what we want to do instead is we want to lead with a headline that's, let's say, 3 to 6 words, and it is designed in a way where it is the biggest, it is the boldest, darkest, most prominently designed item within the entire design, and that it is written in a way that it captures the individual's attention. So instead of saying something like, new episode or new product or new course, it says how to design to get someone to take action or how to work more and earn less, something that actually appeals to that person. And then, okay, I'm much more likely to actually read the rest of the text that's here. Um, Kind of going along those lines, on a web page, like if there's a ton of text, I'm not going to read it. But if you have enticing short headings that are, again, designed in a way that they're visually very different from the other text that I'm seeing, and I can scan them and I see a heading that says, why this is for you. Okay, like I might actually read that text now instead of just seeing 3 paragraphs worth of text and scrolling past it. So I think people think, like, oh, like I have to write less, and yeah, like the words are really important, but it's also you can design in a way that gets someone to actually read whatever those words are that you have to say.
I 100% agree, because as you were talking, I was thinking like, yes, there has to be a flow that makes sense. And if people, because right now, just all over the world, people's attention spans are like just yay big. And so yes, they want the information, but they want it fast, and they want to bypass things that they don't care about to get to the meat of things that they do care about. And so, like you said, using headers, maybe even using bullets to break up things.
Icons.
Yes, icons, even breaking up, instead of having a whole bunch of written text, having videos or pictures and things like that to bring it all together is going to be super helpful, because your target audience will be thankful that they don't have to sift through tons of material. Yes, again, you're passionate about it. Every word you picked with care, but your audience just wants to know what they need so they can get it and go, or they can decide, do they want to engage more or not. And so I think we do have to be diligent about how we lay things, for lack of a better word, on the page to get our word across and have that conversion, because that's what a lot of people are like, yeah, I'm putting stuff out. And I'm like, are you doing it consistently? Yeah. And then one, the branding's not typed. And then two, like you said, tons of words. It's like, remember people used to do PowerPoint? They don't do it all the time anymore. But you can have death by PowerPoint where it was just like somebody reading you slide by slide by slide, just tons of words. You're like, is it over yet? Same thing can happen with your content. Tons of words. People ain't got time for that. They don't want to read it. They're like, is like this is just the most boring thing ever. So I love that you brought that up. I think it was excellent because I was literally picturing like a landing page in my mind. Like, yep, she's right.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Yeah, one other thing, so kind of along the lines of consistency. So we talked about a consistency across platforms, but also something that's really important is consistency within a single design. So a lot of times people think that like being creative means mixing it up. Like, okay, I'm gonna, change the fonts, I'm gonna change the colors, but really you want someone to be able to visually see something and know that's a heading just like that heading before that I read without actually having to read it. So, two examples that everyone's probably working with. One, the Instagram carousel. So, let's say that you're doing a carousel and it's 5 tips for how to do whatever. Every single time that it's tip one and a heading and whatever the description is underneath it, for all five, those need to look exactly the same. Maybe something could change. Maybe there's an icon with it or, a picture or whatever. But like, don't change the font, don't change the color, don't change whatever. Like, you want me to be able to just scroll through and with my eye see, like, okay, this is the next heading, this is the next heading, this is the next one. And same with, something like a PDF where I'm talking about maybe it's like, hey, this is me and I want to come on your podcast. These are some things about me. Like, make all the headings consistent so that someone can, easily scan it and they can just quickly go through and they don't have to read in order to process.
I love it. You are dropping gems today. I think people are literally writing notes like, okay, I got this, check, check. I feel like if you listen carefully to this podcast, you literally can have a checklist for your design and your branding, some do's, some don'ts that'll really help you move further and have clarity in all of your branding and design. So, something that we kind of touch on in every podcast is the idea of affordable solutions. So, like I said, they know what they should do, they know what they shouldn't do, but they may not know what tools they can use. Now, before we even get into tools, you guys already know how I feel about things. At some point in your business, you got to decide what you want to outsource, right? We bring these experts here because these are my trusted folk that I think that if you want to utilize their services, you definitely should. Now, you got to get on calls with them to discuss how it all works, but you may want to outsource this. All of you may not just be, you may not be designers, guys. I don't want you to spend all your time constantly, like I said, being Canva warriors in there trying to figure it out. Yes, it's a great tool, but you may want to outsource it to reclaim your time, have an expert do it well, and you focus on the other things that you need to do as the CEO of your business. But I do also understand that some of you may not be in a space right now where you're either ready to outsource or financially able to. So I do want to at least give them a few suggestions, maybe outside of Canva, that they can use to kind of start pulling some of these pieces together, whether it's a place to figure out different fonts or color palettes or a formula for putting together the designs for pages. Any tips on like some affordable solutions there?
Yeah. So my Instagram is a wealth of free information that you can scroll through and get lots more than what I talked about today with, tons of tips and tricks and, little things to pay attention to. My design course, Create with Confidence, is very low cost and I do flash sales, every couple of months. And that is truly my A to Z of I'm not a designer. I do not want to be a designer, but I have to design things. How can I design them better and design them in a way that gets my ideal person to take action? That is, the perfect thing that I would recommend with my course. Of course, there's, YouTube and lots of different things. I've really found that my niche is teaching design to non-designers. Like a lot of YouTube videos that I find when I'm, just kind of doing research to stay current in what other people are talking about. A lot of times people are using like jargon or terminology that only other graphic designers would know or like someone with an art degree would know. So, I think that can be a little overwhelming at times. But my brand refresh currently starts at $1,200. So that can be a really great way to kind of set that very professional foundation for your business. And then you can take it from there to, design all of your pieces with that foundation.
All right, that's awesome. Look, so she said, yes, you can go to YouTube Academy if you want, but it may be a little tough. She definitely has a lot of free content on her Instagram page. And that link, if you are watching, was across the screen, but it's also going to be on the show notes. So whether you're listening or watching, you can just go there, click on it, and be able to access that. I am one of those people that will social media stalk you. So go there, check it out. She's always putting out content in real time. She's consistent, y'all. So definitely check her out there. And then if you are ready to really put design in your own hands and have brand consistency, then definitely check out her course, or at least book a call with her to see, is the course right, or do you need to jump into something else? Because she said earlier she has the course, but she also has some done for you services. Amen. And so you may be ready for that as well. I am very much like, here you go. Take my money so that it is done right and I can do other things. I like to create and work with clients. I want to do something different. I don't want to spend time making social media posts. I don't want to make websites. I don't want to make landing pages for myself. Been there, done that. It's time consuming. So I love that you kind of have a lot of options for them at very different price ranges, which is great. So before we close out, I want to give you an opportunity to give us some of your last thoughts, things that you're like, hey, if you don't take nothing else from this podcast, here it is. And then we'll go ahead and remind them how they can connect with you afterwards.
Yeah. So, one final tip would just be, everybody wants a really versatile Instagram feed, but they also want it to be on brand. And so, what I see a lot of people doing is like every time they need to create a new Instagram graphic, they go to Canva, they change the colors, maybe they change the fonts, and then they, throw it up on their feed. But like we've talked about, it's more than just fonts and colors, it's shapes, it's layout, it's alignment. So, my advice would be to go to Canva to pick 3 templates that you feel are representative of your brand, based on those 5 words that we've probably, hopefully by now, figured out. And we're going to create 3 versions of those 3 templates. So, with our 6 to 8 brand colors, we're going to create 3 different versions of those 3 templates. So now we have 9 different templates to work with. And so, interchanging those 9 templates with, just regular pictures, that can give a really versatile Instagram feed, but that's also on brand and consistent.
Okay, look, she gave you stuff to implement now. And if you guys, if you do any of the implementation things that our experts tell you to do, please tag them, tag me so we can see that you're actually doing the work. We want to cheer you on. We want to be excited for you. I'm like, okay, look at them. I see the shift. I see the branding. I like the vibe. So definitely do that. And if you want to connect with our expert speaker, you want to get with Lauren. Lauren, tell them, how can they connect with you?
Yeah. So the best place to find me is my Instagram. It's felter.unfiltered. My website is felterunfiltered.com. Like I said, I have my course, which is low cost. I also have a low cost website and launch asset audit. So if you are, kind of in a pinch and you need help making some changes to your website and you are not at the place where you can afford a fully custom site, I will spend an hour with you going through your site and helping you make some changes that will increase conversion, increase revenue. And I also do that with assets for an upcoming launch. So, like a slide deck, sales pages, any kind of lead magnets, things like that. So, lots of low cost options for, we've got our DIYing business owners, and then we've got our business owners that are like, I'm over this and I just need you to do it for me. So, I like to work with both.
Amen to that. I feel you. I'm definitely of the same thought. Like I have some people that I'll say they dip their toe into the water. They're just trying to feel it out and figure out what works for them. And then some that are like, all right, here we are. I'm ready to move to the next stage. So I love that you have stuff for any and everyone, it seems, at all the different price points. So I want to thank Lauren for being on the podcast today. She definitely was dropping gems. As always, I go back and listen to these podcast episodes myself, guys, and I take notes and I go back and look and see what I'm doing and how I can improve. And if I'm doing that, you should definitely be too. If you enjoyed the information that you got on this podcast, remember to go back and view and listen to our past podcast episodes. And remember, we drop a new episode each and every week. So with that being said, guys, remember, I rock, you rock, we all rock, and we'll talk to you soon.